The common saying is guests like fish begin to smell after 3 days. But is that accurate? And how do we deal with those out-of-town visitors? Etiquette expert Sheila Keast is here to talk about the best way to deal with house guests. And you've had some experience in this arena.
Yes. We've had lots of experiences, especially when your house guests come from out of town, like the UK.
Yes.
They're here for 2 weeks, you know.
And it's not a weekend trip.
No, it's not. It's not.
So what do you recommend in terms of staying with people? How long should guests stay before they overstay their welcome?
Well, I don't mind having house guests, but I think 3 or 4 days is long enough because, you know, you're living in a residential neighborhood, so there's nothing to do. So they're better than to move on to the strip, stay in a nice hotel, come back and see us, have dinner, swim in the pool, but, you know, have fun on the strip. But, you know, 3 or 4 days is enough for anyone.
Yeah, that is a lot of pressure to put on the homeowner.
Really is. Yeah.
Now, when you do have them staying in the home, one thing with me is just like, what kind of limits do I set with those house guests? Bedtimes, coming in and out. Do I set those limits? What kind of limits do you
have to set limits because you're at home and you're working, so it's your family home. So, no drunken parties after 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
You don't want drunken parties anyway, do you?
Ever,
right? You know, and especially, you know, meal times and things, you know, if they're going to come stay for dinner, make sure they show up on time.
Now, one thing I've had to deal with before with the house guests is they stay with you and it's totally fine, but then they say, oh, one of my friends is in town and I invited them to come over. So when your guests invite their guests over, how do you deal with that?
Well, at least they tell you. If they arrive unexpectedly and you hear the cab door cling and the doorbell goes, then you're in trouble, you know? So be polite, welcome into your home, and then when they leave, have a word with your house guests and just tell them, you know, that wasn't cool. Okay. You know, it's too much.
How about, I know that a lot of people have a lot of dietary restrictions these days. People are vegan, people don't eat certain foods. How do I shop for that, or what do you do in that situation?
You know, I'm on the filet mignon diet for 2 weeks, right?
I love that diet.
House, right? So maybe have something in for like 1 or 2 meals, but then after that, tell them they're on their own. You know, if they want to eat something that's really expensive, you know, everybody's on a budget. So, you know, tell them they can go buy a little for themselves and you'll help with everything else.
That's not rude to tell them to go shop for themselves.
No, not really. If you're on a special diet, you can't expect your host to supply everything. I mean, that's just rude.
Oh, I hope certain people are watching this right now. I really do. Okay. If a guest, a lot of times the people that will stay with us, so they'll say, hey, what can I do to help? Do you take them up on that?
Of course.
Do you put them to, you do?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, empty the dishwasher, let's go to the grocery store. Why don't you offer to cook dinner one evening? Maybe even clean up, you know, so you can sit back, have a nice gin and tonic, put your feet up and chill out for the evening. It's perfect.
I feel like it's going to sound a lot nicer coming from you than it does from me. You sound so good. Great tips. Thank you, as
you're
always.
Most welcome. Thank you for having me.
I love having you on the show with some great tips.
You're welcome.